everybody, and welcome back to the Who Are They podcast for episode 5. I'm Abby.
And I'm Bailey.
Wow. Halfway through season 2.
I know, crazy.
I feel
We've been doing
like
this for many weeks, actually.
actually a lot. I know. I was looking at how many podcasts we had out when I was putting the one out last week, and it's crazy to me that there are this many. And if people have
Right.
been listening to us this long, I really just want to say you're a true fan.
Yeah, and you know what? We've been consistent about getting them out every single Tuesday.
I know.
Like,
Blood,
I'm proud
sweat,
of
and
us, to be
tears.
honest.
I'm kidding. It
Blood.
really hasn't been bad.
Maybe a little tears, though.
I don't
Did you cry?
know. I
No,
mean,
neither did I.
frustration, don't get me wrong. But
No tears. Yay.
yes.
That's a first for me, at least.
Well, why don't you start with your catch up?
Sorry, your laugh just sounded like you were the little sounded like you were so fake laughing at what I just said.
I'm not.
She
I
really thinks I'm
promise.
funny. We promise. I'm starting.
Sure, yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to think. Whirlwind of a week. Not really, but we finished TCAP testing.
Good job.
We had math and science. We finished those. I hope my kids did well. Who knows though? Because there were definitely some kids that finish way faster than I know their ability is to finish the test.
Oh, doesn't that happen all the time? Oh, it
It happens
hurts
all the
my
time.
heart.
Or like, let's say there's 30 questions on the test and they finish in 30 minutes or less. I
Yeah.
go,
And you're
there's
like,
no
how?
way you did a problem a minute. I don't think I could sit and do a problem a minute when there's story problems. So that's a little disappointing. But some kids tried really hard and they worked the whole time. And we can offer extra time, like it's like 20% of
Right.
the time. So a few times they took it when they needed it, and then they didn't when they did. One of my coworkers, though, one of the little girls, I guess, had raised her hand for extra time, and usually this is a little girl that needs extra time,
Yeah.
and so like they give it. Everybody has to sit through it, and then as she's walking around, she notices a little girl is just coloring in the arrows
Stop.
in the test booklet.
Mm-hmm.
So she just took the extra time to color.
That
So
is actually
everybody
so
was done.
funny.
And everybody had to sit there for like 9 extra minutes while she just colored in the arrows.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah. I mean, they're 11 and 12. What are you going to do, I guess?
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, you can't say anything as a proctor. You're just kind of like, all right.
Right.
This is what we're choosing to do. But no, my kids did a good job. We had lots of good snacks. Unfortunately, to me, and I think the students, now it feels like the school year is over.
Right.
Because they keep asking me, are we going to do any math for the rest of the year? And I go, well, yeah, we have a month left.
Right.
But we have finished our curriculum, so a lot of it's just going to be projects and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not done with the science curriculum, so we're going to keep going with that. And they seem disappointed every time I say, yeah, we are going to be doing a little bit of math in math class.
I know. Mine too. And we haven't even done our state testing. We still have longer than you do.
It's like, yeah, we have 17 and a half days left. And we can all feel it. They're feeling it. I'm feeling it, you know?
I know.
Today they had to take another test, though. We
Oh.
do a test called Ames Web, where they
Yeah.
take it at the beginning, middle, and the end of the year. It's like a progress monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I would love to tell you this is your last test of the year, but you have one more. They have to take next week the 5th grade. It's the 6th grade math placement test, so they take it, and it helps place them in a math class for next year.
Right.
And I keep having parents ask me what they should do to study for it. And I say nothing. Please don't study for it, because then your kid's going to be put in a math class that they will be sinking in next year.
Right.
So that's really fun. This past weekend, it was really warm. And on Saturday,
I know what you're going to say.
so fun, so silly. My boyfriend and I went ring shopping.
Oh, ho, ho.
We went to go look. We didn't buy anything, but
Right.
it was so fun because it was a little appointment all about me. So
Okay,
they
I'm so glad you find that fun because personally, I would find that like so I would find that so I would hate it, to be honest,
why?
cuz it would make me really uncomfortable.
Well, the thing is, I'm glad I knew what I wanted before I came in.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I just want a solitaire. I just want a gold band, and I wanted white prongs. You know, so your little
Mhm.
diamond. And she was impressed that I knew that when I came in.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, well, all my friends are getting engaged, so
To
I've
be
seen some
honest, like
rings.
what you just said, like I don't even know what some of that stuff means, but
Yeah.
like that's okay.
So it was fun. We had to get size because I didn't even know my ring size, and I also didn't realize like the diamonds aren't attached to the band.
Oh,
Like they just have bands that are empty and then loose diamonds that they go and get. They're like wrapped up, and they don't put it together until you buy it because you have to buy the ring and the diamond separately.
oh, I didn't know that either.
Right. So you put the ring on and you like sit your hand like this, and then she takes little tweezers and she sets it in the setting. And so you can look at the different
What?
sizes and different shapes.
What?
Right. And then you take a picture of it so you can see. So she'll bring out different diamonds and different shapes. I just wanted circle and oval. She's like, you don't want to see anything else? I said, no, absolutely not. And so she brought out like different sizes, different carrots and different
Oh,
shapes, and they like sit it in the band, your hands flat, and you just look at it and you take a picture to kind of remember which one they look like. And then we narrowed it down
interesting.
to two. And so after you narrow it down to two, at least at the place we went to, they make a profile. So like
Mhm.
it was all my boyfriend's information in there, and they logged the band I wanted in between the two diamonds so that he can just go in there and purchase it.
Wow.
I know. Very convenient. It was very fun. I just it was so fun because she was asking me all these questions. I got to answer them and
I just am the
like
type of
try them
person that
on.
doesn't know what I want, I think.
I knew exactly
And
what
I'm
I wanted
so
when I walked in there.
indecisive. So I think that that would make me uncomfortable. But I am so happy for you and your good decision making.
There are certain things where I am very particular on,
Yeah.
and it like if that doesn't happen, like I have to adjust my thinking, and my thinking's not
Right.
always easily adjusted. But yeah, I was particular on this, and so we narrowed it down to two shapes. I was between the circle and the oval, so I put them both on there, and I said, "Jacob, you get to pick now.
Mhm. Yeah.
Pick which one you want." I said because yeah, but then he was like, "Well, what one do you want?" I said, "I like the oval one," but he didn't really like the oval one, and I said, "Well, you pick what you want because I like them both,
Right.
and it's from you."
Right.
Yeah, so he was there. He was having like I was expecting him to be stressed while we were there
Yeah.
because you're spending money.
Right.
But he was actually pretty chill and he was having a good time making jokes. But there was something so embarrassing, and I'm going to tell you about it that I did.
Oh no.
This appointment, I was embarrassed about it. It was one of those things where, okay, so she's talking to us. We've been talking to her for probably 5-10 minutes now. She's even brought out some diamonds and rings, and we've been looking at them. And she goes, I never asked you, what are your guys' last names? I thought she said, what's your last names? And I like in my head in the milliseconds that I had between her asking that, me answering it, I thought, how weird. Why would she ask that? We don't have the same last name yet. So I go first and I just say, Ganya. And she goes, oh, that's so beautiful. And I was like, yeah, people don't usually say that. And I thought, I was like, okay. And then my boyfriend goes, Jacob. And I go, oh, she didn't ask what our last names were.
Stop.
She just said, what are your names? And for some reason, my brain had inserted the word last. And so now she leaves for a second to go get, I think she went to go get
Stop
a
it.
different diamond. And
Oh,
so she leaves,
stop.
and I look at Jacob and I go, oh my gosh. I told her my last name is Ganya, and that doesn't even sound like a real name. And I was
No.
like, she was definitely lying through her teeth when she was like, what a beautiful name. She probably thought I was crazy. Yeah. Anyways, I don't, it was so embarrassing. And then the rest of the time I was like, what if she like tries to refer to me by my name, or like we're filling out information and I have to tell her my real name and then explain to her this whole situation. So I was like freaking out. I was having a great time until this moment. And then I was like, oh my gosh. But and then Jacob left. He's like, I'm going to leave and go walk over here for a second. And he left for a little while. And I think he wanted me to have to tell her my real name.
Right.
But he came back, and instead we were filling out a profile for him. She never tried to say my name again. She didn't take any of my information down. She
Wow.
just took his info. So I think she was afraid to say it. Like, she was like, I'm
Yeah.
going to say this wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
But very embarrassing, but not embarrassing to her because she never found out, just for me.
Right.
And Jacob texted one of his buddies. He's got a little group chat, and he was like, "This is what Bailey just did." And his one buddy said, He's like, "I'm so excited for your guys' life together."
You want to know what? Like, I feel mortified for you just listening to that story
It
because,
was mortifying.
oh my gosh, I would never be able to walk back into that store again in my life.
Yeah. Well, I just Jacob, after the lady had left, he was like making all these jokes about what I had said, and he was like, maybe I should just go, actually, like, if she tries to refer to your name again, actually her name's Bailey, which I think is much prettier, in fact. But I was like, that lady's such a liar that she told me that.
Yeah.
But I was like, I knew the whole situation was weird. It was mortifying. And then, but it was so fun. I showed my coworkers the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was really fun. A really enjoyable day. And then we went and got coffee so he could do schoolwork.
Oh,
Yes.
that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I am starting my state testing this week with my students. And so it's just a whirlwind of testing basically till the end of the year. We've got 3 days of testing this week, one test next week, just like a regular. We're finishing our statistics unit. So our statistics unit next week. And then the week after that, we have 2 more days of testing. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. But this week was really fun. Did you just hear the doorbell?
No.
Okay, good.
Who's ringing your doorbell?
I have no idea. Earlier this week, I went to the Center for the Arts here in Midland, and they have different like shows all throughout the year. And I got to go with my grandma and my mom, and we went to a show put on by Alvin Ailey, I think is how you say it. It's a dance theater or like a something, and apparently they traveled. They were just in Nashville actually.
Really?
This past weekend, I think, right after they were here in Midland. The only show they did in Michigan was in Midland here at the Center for the Arts, and I think they're a big dance company out of New York, maybe. When I looked it up, I'm pretty sure, and it was so cool. Like it was really good and really fun to go watch. Um, some of it was a little bit weird, and I didn't like vibe with all of it, but most of it was like really cool. And then I had a weekend basically of nothing, which was so wonderful. I've had a lot of full weekends lately, so sitting around and hanging out with people and reading a lot was perfect. My cousin stayed here for the weekend. We watched her soccer game on Friday night, and I read a ton, and I got both my grandparents and my cousin. Well, my cousin and I were trying to pick a movie to watch, and then we got both of our grandparents to sit down and watch She's the Man with us.
Oh, great movie.
So good, so good. I'd made my grandma watch it with me before, honestly, and we got my grandpa to sit down. To be honest, I don't know how he stayed sitting through that movie. I really don't, because it's a horrible movie, but it is the funniest movie I've ever watched in my life. And he laughed. He definitely thought it was stupid, but he was laughing.
Right. I mean, it's like parts of it are stupid, but that's kind of the point, I feel like.
Oh, the whole thing is so stupid. But if I ever need to laugh like really badly, I will always watch that movie.
It's fantastic.
As for my reading this week,
oh yes,
I finished the I think last time we talked, I'd read the first 2 books of Throne of Glass. Now I have finished the prequel. So I read book 1 and 2, then I went back and read the prequel.
Oh wow.
Now I'm partway into the 3rd book. I started it last night. And this week I also read the newest Emily Henry book called Funny Story.
When are you reading? Are you reading at school?
Yeah. But I like during usually my half hour like lunch period. I'll
Okay.
pull out my book and read for that half hour while I eat. So, like, not for very long.
No, just for the wow. Wow. You are a fast reader.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
But
welcome.
remember, I had a nothing weekend. So I read all
Oh,
weekend.
so you read the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, funny story, I will say I didn't love it as much as I've loved other Emily Henry books. Although I haven't read them in a long time, so I don't remember everything about them. But it was a really cute story, so I would recommend it. It was
Huh.
good. She
Good.
works in a library, and so it makes it cute. And then Throne of Glass, I will say, is just blowing my mind. And I'm not even barely into this third book, but I just know it's going to be getting better and better. And you keep getting introduced to new characters. And I would say anyone and everyone should read the books.
Well, I am reading by the same author, The Court of Thorns and Roses. I still haven't finished the first one because I'm not as dedicated as a reader. I would like to be. But I yesterday read a bunch of it, and it's like really getting to like kind of the twist in the story
Mm-hmm.
kind of ish, and I like it's getting really good.
My sister has
So
read
we'll
both
see.
series,
Oh,
and
has she?
she said, um, I asked her, I said, does A Court of Thorn and Roses compare to A Throne of Glass in how good and how all the twists and all the turns and everything? Because my sister just keeps saying, just you wait. Like, you could never predict what's happened. It's going to be so good. Like, you're not going to believe it. And she said A Court of Thorn and Roses is decent, but
Mm-hmm.
nowhere in comparison does it make you fall in love with the characters and
Hmm.
so invested of the story as Throne of Glass. Now, that
All
might just
right.
be her opinion, but
Well, I'll have to read that one next.
yeah. Okay, I'm done.
All right. Me too.
Good.
I'm so glad we caught up. The history today I sent to Abby, and it is from the year 2021. I sent her two different videos. You don't have to watch the entire video of the one where there's three people.
Okay.
I think just a little bit's gonna give you the gist.
Oh, I already know what these are. This is so funny.
But I cropped the one of just you to I think the funniest part.
Oh my gosh. I wonder what this is. Okay. I, I'm going to play the one of just me first. Is that what you want me to
Okay,
do?
that's
Okay.
fine. Any order is fine.
Okay.
Abby, what are you guys making for dinner today?
We are making burgers, fries, vegan chicken nuggets, and tater tots.
Okay.
I
For
just thought
those,
the way you stared at the camera is hilarious.
I do too. And the sound of my voice, there's not much to this, like the video portion of it, except for like me just I think I'm playing with a there's a bunch of Coca-Cola cans in front of me and I'm like pulling
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola cans out. But I think I'm struggling with the plastic.
I think you're just
Anyways,
trying to put them in the fridge or something.
I'm not sure. But I'm talking to the camera. So really it's just me standing there talking to the camera and my hands are trying to do something. But I think it's hilarious the sound of my voice when you get me on camera. Just I feel like I don't talk like that normally. Do I?
Mm, that's like the tone of your voice.
It is, but I feel like the cadence or the way
Oh, the
that I'm
cadence
like
changes. Yes,
like
the way in which you speak does change. Like your pitch and everything is
like
is the same.
hamburgers and
Yeah,
tater
that is
tots.
definitely you when you're on camera. And I'm glad you don't do that when we're on the pod because we
Me
are on
too.
camera. But it feels more like a FaceTime call.
I know, I know. This feels like a FaceTime and that's like I'm performing for something.
Yeah.
Every time I see myself on camera, I go, "Oh, dear. Why do you talk like that?" But that is so funny. If you should go check it out on
Well,
Instagram because I'm looking at the camera all weird.
yes. Well, also the setup to it, we are on a mission trip. So
Right.
this
Oh,
week
that's a good point.
in 2021, we were on a mission trip in Lakeland, Florida, and it was Abby's group's turn to make dinner for
Yeah.
us. And this video came out of a bigger video where we're talking about our secret girl club, where we
Oh.
were playing a prank on the boys, and then we all took a drink from like a Coke can or something,
I have no idea.
and we were basically we said a little phrase, and then we would take a drink, and then we would pass it.
Yeah, but somebody was a germaphobe, and so they pretended.
Kaya was a germaphobe, so she
Yeah.
had her own, and she like pretended to not, Yeah, so this was just clipped out of a bigger video, but I just thought you need to go to our Instagram and watch the way that it like zooms in on Abby's face, and she like gets super seriously, like she's saying all the food we're having for dinner, and then she gets super serious, stares at the camera, and just goes tater tots.
I loved that trip. I think we've talked about it before, but shout out to the Lakeland crew.
Yeah, if you listen to this.
Okay, the second video, the front of it is Bailey with a guitar and me sitting on a cajon. And I'm pretty sure it's Taylor Swift, but I'm going to play it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Falling down like pieces into place, and I can picture it after all these days.
Okay, I'm going to stop it here. I've only listened to a little bit of it, but it's Bailey and I. Kaya runs in after a second, and it's the three of us up on this stage, very poorly lit. But Bailey's got her guitar. What song is this? All Too Well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We start singing All Too Well. You can tell I've never drummed a minute in my life, but I was having fun. And
I'm not great at the guitar either.
but you're better than I was at the drums.
So we had kind of a song.
Mm-hmm. And Kaya is singing her heart out. She's pretending her hand is a microphone, and yeah, we all sang our hearts out for that, to be honest.
This also on the mission trip. This would have been later the same night. So must have had so much energy from Abby's delicious tater tots that we stayed up late, and after worship and the full day, we sat in a dark room and recorded ourselves singing this.
The fact that
And
we
I
recorded
think-
it is actually quite funny.
I think it was really a bonding moment for the three of us.
Me too.
It was great. I think the boys had gone to the store.
Oh, that
And
might-
it was
that would make
just
sense.
the girls in this church alone. And we were like, well, why not sing then?
Because I was wondering why we would have done that if the boys were all around.
I think the boys were
Not
gone.
there.
Because then I think we played a prank on them later and went and hid the walkie-talkies in their room.
Oh,
Right after
that's
this. And
true.
we've referenced that in a previous podcast. We hid the walkie-talkies in their room and we set alarms to go off.
Right.
Or we were going to talk into them.
We were
and then
going to
we had
turn on the
acc-
little, like, finding.
at the same
like,
time, but for some reason some of them went off earlier and they found them all earlier.
Yeah.
Ruined our prank. Yeah.
All right. Are you ready for our topic today?
I am ready for our topic today. I spent my whole day at a school, so might as well talk about schools and learning some more.
You want to know what? I could walk out of my school right now and not walk back in. But
Yeah.
not ever. I don't mean ever, but I mean like for the summer. You know what I mean?
Oh, and honestly, when we're done with testing, I'm just kind of like, we're done with math curriculum, we're done with testing, so I go, why am I needed here?
Yeah, I get
Why
that.
don't we end right after testing?
Mm-hmm.
Like ELA, sure, because their curriculum
Cyclical?
sick
No. Cyclical?
circular cyclical. No. Yeah, it's cyclical. No,
Really? No, that sounds wrong.
it's anyways.
It keeps
goes
going.
in circles. So they're not done with their curriculum yet, and we are. And I just like we're doing filler projects for the rest of the year.
Yeah, well, such is life. And public
Anyways.
school.
And public
Anyways.
school, right? If we were homeschooled, could we be done, or do you have to have a certain number of homeschool days too?
You do. You have to. I mean, I don't think you technically do. But our
you'd
topic
still
this
be
week,
learning.
everybody, is homeschool and public school, really just schooling growing up.
Yes.
We had two different experiences. And so we're going to talk about them.
Yeah. I'll start.
Okay, good. Because I wasn't
went to-
quite sure where to go.
Okay, well, I went to public school my whole life. But from kindergarten through second grade, I went to 3 different public schools.
Whoa, girl.
Yeah, so I lived in Indiana when I was little, went to kindergarten there. Then I moved to Michigan, went to a first grade at a school, and then we moved like 5 minutes from the apartment we had been living in that year, but it changed which school we were zoned to. So I went to a
Oh.
third school for second grade, and I stayed there through 5th grade. It's very interesting at a young age to go from one school to the next and make friends and then leave and then make friends again. But also, I would want to do it as a little kid because I feel like that
Right.
was the easiest time for me to make new friends. But I do remember kindergarten, hated that. I hated kindergarten. Hated it. I went to half-day kindergarten, and my teacher was the meanest lady.
I don't remember
had
that
no
far back in my
friends.
life.
I do because I didn't have a lot of friends in kindergarten. After that, everything was fine. For some reason, that kindergarten school, crazy. Hated my teacher. Kids didn't like me. I remember I accidentally poked this little girl in the eye once. I don't remember
Oh.
anything about curriculum in kindergarten except for one time we baked cookies because we had a kitchen in our kindergarten room.
Wow.
Don't know what that had to do with the curriculum at all. I only remember like extra stories from kindergarten. At one time, I accidentally poked a little girl in the eye while we were playing dress up, and because I like put a shirt on and reached my arm back and poked her, and she got really mad at me and started crying and said she wouldn't be my friend anymore.
Oh. That wasn't
Lost
your
a friend that
fault.
day.
You
I
lost a friend
know.
that day.
Imagine little 5-year-old Bailey lost a little friend, poked her in the eye on accident. That's public school, okay?
That's one little
You,
thing
if
and
you
you
poke
no longer have friends.
you, if you had poked your sister in the eye, you might have thought about it, but you're still sisters.
Yeah, true. I didn't go to public school my whole life. I went to public school up through 1st grade. And then I was homeschooled 2nd through 11th grade. Went back to public school for my senior year. And that was that before I went to
How
college.
was that? Right, so you were both homeschooled and public school. On like opposite ends of the spectrum. You were
I know.
in public school only for the youngest years and the oldest years.
I know. My only really funny story I remember from being young. Now you just saying your funny story is I think she was my 1st grade teacher. Maybe she was kindergarten, but I swear she was maybe she was kindergarten. I have no idea. No idea. But she used to pretend she had an evil twin.
Oh.
It was whack. So this is the only memory I have of that classroom. She would be really, really nice and everything. And then she would get really upset if we like weren't listening to her or like something was going wrong. And she'd leave the room. And then she'd pretend her evil twin like came back. And then the twin would yell at us and be all mean. And then she'd leave and then she'd come back all nice again.
Was this an older lady or a younger lady?
Older, like mid. I feel like she was a mom for sure. I feel like.
Okay. That is whack.
I know.
I cannot. That would not fly today.
No.
Not at all. I think I would get a parent email the first day about that. To be like, you yelled at my kid, and I just emailed back, no, I didn't. It was my evil twin. Actually, maybe I should start that. That wasn't me. It was my evil twin.
That was my twin. I'm so sorry.
Speaking of things that probably wouldn't fly today in 1st grade, we had like a card system where you'd pull a card
Mm-hmm.
if you were naughty, and we're not allowed to do stuff like that anymore. Like you can't do clip charts and pull a card. They probably don't really work anyway, except for good kids. And I was a really good kid. But one time I had to pull one card, the green one, which is just a warning.
But
because
you mean everybody had a certain?
everybody
cards
had,
and-
there was like a green, red, and yellow.
You got to remember, I
Green?
didn't do this.
Okay, well, I'll explain it exactly to you for all you homeschoolers. You had a green, red, and yellow card. If you pulled the green card, it was a warning. Yellow card, don't remember what it was, and I think red card was like call home.
Oh.
It was not good. So back in the day, a lot of classrooms had doors to the outside, and you were allowed to just leave them propped open.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a section of our classroom where we would have like carpet time, and then there was like a little alcove where our door was to go, where a door was, and we used to like to sit in front of the door because we were still kind of in front of the carpet.
Right.
And I think I was sick on the day that she told the kids they weren't allowed to sit there anymore. And the next day I come back to school and I go and I sit in that spot with like 2 other kids. None of them warm to me. And then she yells at us and makes everybody go back to their seat. And she goes, if you are sitting in front of the door, you need to go pull a card. And
oh,
I was
no.
I know. And I was the only kid that was honest and got up and pulled my card.
Good job.
Thank you, those little twerps. And then I probably cried about it when I got home. We also, one more funny story from first grade. We were raising chickens in public school. It's a public school thing. You raise chickens in kindergarten, first grade. We did it in first grade, and then usually butterflies as well.
Right.
But
We
this
did
year
butterflies.
you did homeschool butterflies?
Yeah.
Nice. Those kits are probably easier to buy offline.
Yeah.
So we were raising chickens, and they were getting ready to hatch. So my teacher was gonna put words, because you're also in first grade, you learn how to read, that had the sound egg in them. And so she was letting us raise our hand and answer. Let's say little Jimmy raised his hand. He was like, excellent. Or egg stream, stuff like that, where it sounds like egg. And she's going to put them on the wall. Little Bailey, raise her hand. And I go, eczema.
Because you
And
really
she was
have
like,
that.
Yes, I do have eczema. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a really good word. And my teacher laughs and she goes, it does work. But she never put my word on the wall.
Probably because she didn't know how to spell it.
It was so rude. I was like, I had the best word. Okay? I was
You
thinking
really did.
outside the box. Eczema.
That's really mean of her.
Yeah. But then when those chickens hatched, we all just sat in a circle in our circle time area, and she put a blue tarp down and let the chickens run free between first graders.
That is hilarious.
It was so fun.
Well,
did you go on like field trips or anything being homeschooled?
no. But I mean, I was thinking about this before, right? Because I was really thinking, what did I do as a kid? Right? Like, how did all of that work? We had a curriculum that we used. It was called the Sunlight curriculum. And every grade had a big, huge binder. And it had all the materials or the whole schedule for the whole year. And it had when we were young, it was a 4-day week. I think it might have always been a 4-day week, maybe. But maybe as you got older, it went to a 5-day week. I'm not totally sure. I can't remember. But it had the whole schedule of the books you needed to be reading, your read-alouds, your history books, stuff to do for writing, although we didn't always use that curriculum for writing. We ended up using something else later on. And then you had to get a separate math curriculum. But that whole binder kept you on schedule of everything you had to do every day. So I remember checking that all the time. And my mom, at least when I got old enough, like middle school and high school, I was checking that all the time and was like in charge of my own curriculum. Whereas my mom, when we were really young, always had the blue binder. So I was always aware that there was a schedule and a curriculum that we had to follow. But I feel like when we were little, grade school age, we were always getting our work done pretty early because I just remember playing around outside all the time. And for people that are like, you probably didn't actually do that much school, right? Because everyone says that of homeschoolers. We did have a curriculum that we followed. My mom was a teacher before we started homeschooling and everything. So she technically was qualified.
She was qualified by the state.
Yeah. Well, probably not by the time she started teaching us, but at one point she was qualified. I always would get so offended by people who, because growing up, I just had a bunch of friends that were homeschoolers growing up. We were part of a co-op. A bunch of friends from church were homeschooled. And a piece of my headphones just fell off.
But you talked about like getting done really early, but if I think about my school day, if we took out a lot of the extra stuff and if it was like one student, that student gets their stuff done and is sometimes waiting for other students to finish. So instead of that, if you could just move from one thing to the next, then some kids could get done really quickly.
I know. Well, our math was like a book page front and back that we had to do every day. And when you're young, through 5th grade, I loved math. It was the easiest thing in the world. Right.
So would you watch a video to teach you or your mom just teach you?
No, my mom kind of taught us, but I think the math itself just built really well from day to day, that it wasn't anything like crazy.
I also remember when we would have been in elementary school, the math was a lot different
Yeah.
because letters were not introduced into math for
No.
me until I was in the 6th grade.
Right. And by that time, I had switched math curriculums and I was on to a math curriculum that did do a 15-minute video before I could
Okay.
answer any questions. But through the 5th grade, it was a totally different curriculum that was a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. And one thing I wrote down that I really do remember a lot of is the curriculum that we did. We had specific books we had to read ourselves, and then we had other books that had to be read alouds. And so my mom, she would flip-flop the read alouds because my siblings would also listen to them. So my sister and I were always kind of on the same grade level, at least for reading.
Right.
And we would all like cuddle up in bed in the afternoon or something, and she would do our read aloud for that day, read the handful of chapters. And I just remember that always being really fun and listening to a book all together.
Well, we did that in public school too.
Yeah.
We would get into chapter books probably starting in 3rd grade. I didn't. I had a weird 3rd grade. But 4th and 5th grade, I remember we were always listening to read alouds. And those were some of my favorite books ever. I think we did Holes in 4th grade and Gregor the Overlander.
Oh, Gregor
She
the
would read
Overlander is
those
so
books
good
to us. But the read alouds in public school were fun because usually the read alouds were not curriculum based. Holes might have been. I think Holes was, but Gregor the Overlander definitely was not. So the teacher would just take like 10, 15 minutes at the end of the day, and it was like, we got this time to listen to a fun book. 5th grade, we did City of Ember and Hatchet, and those were definitely part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
I can't remember what else we did, but I loved read alouds because then usually we'd get to watch the movie afterwards.
Oh, that's fun.
And so it was super special. The teacher would wheel in that TV and you get to watch the movie. Oh, those were good days. Going back to my 3rd grade, my 3rd grade was super weird. We had a grade in my school that was smaller than most of the other grades.
Oh, okay.
There were only enough kids for a classroom and a half.
What?
Like when we were in 2nd grade, it was fine. Kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, I guess they had enough kids, but I don't know if they rezoned or what went on between those grades. But for some reason, our class in particular, there were only enough kids for a class and a half, or like a class and like 7 extra kids.
Interesting.
And so there would be one regular class, and all the other grade levels had the normal amount of kids. And then there were 7 kids that would go into a split class. And so it would be a class full of the grade younger and then the 7 of our grade. In my 3rd grade year, I was in a split class 2nd and 3rd grade. And to be honest, I think I was basically homeschooled that year.
Yeah.
Because I remember her spending most of the time with the 2nd graders, and she would give us a worksheet.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd meet with us. She'd meet with us in small group for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then she'd say, go do this worksheet.
Yeah.
It was a lot of kind of do stuff on your own. I also taught myself division in the 3rd grade.
Oh, girl.
Because everything bad happens when you're sick. I used to have anxiety about being sick in elementary school because she taught division for the very first time the day I was sick, and then must have forgot I had been sick the next day.
Yep.
And she gave me this worksheet and I got everything wrong. And then she was like, you can't go out to recess until you get these all right. So I sat there as a 3rd grade student and taught myself how to divide after never seeing it in my life.
Good job.
Everybody, and it was like indoor recess because everybody was playing around me and I'm sitting at my desk doing this worksheet.
I'm proud of you and your perseverance as a child.
Thank you. I'm really proud that I taught myself a new math skill. Like, it's not like I took something and built on an old skill.
Let me jump to my math experience. Okay. Yeah. I loved math in elementary. Probably through 5th or 6th grade, we had the Horizons curriculum, which I just remember being easy. Then my mother switched our math curriculum, which I thought was the worst decision she'd ever made in the world. And it was teaching textbooks is what it was called. And we had a CD we had to put into our computer, and we had to watch a 15-minute video, answer 5 practice questions before it allowed us to go to the actual 30 questions of the lesson to solve.
Okay.
And it would check your work as you went and tell you if you got them right or wrong and you got so many chances or something. I don't remember. But it was this whole thing. I hated it. Thought it was the worst thing in the world. So eventually I got to algebra or algebra 2. I can't remember which. But I was beside myself because it was hard. And I couldn't understand it, and I didn't know what was happening. And at this point, I was for sure probably 8th or ninth grade, probably ninth grade, and just at the point where I'd been with my mother for too many years in a row. I was starting to get sick of her. I didn't want to ask for help, and being a teenager, thought I was smart enough to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And we would fight all the time. And so I didn't want to ask her for anything. So I just quit doing my math. And I have 6 younger siblings, so she was doing school with all of them. I probably didn't do math and somehow got out of checking in with her and proving to her that I'd been doing it for probably a month.
Oh my gosh.
And then I had to, the ironic thing is I'm a math teacher now, but I had to then do math all summer, and she then got this college girl to sit down with me and do math with me because I wouldn't listen to my mom. And do math with me once a week, make sure I was doing it, and answer all my questions and help tutor me.
Oh
Because
my
I
gosh.
just quit doing it, which you wouldn't be able to do in public school.
Oh, kids do it.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to just not do anything at all. You'd still at least be sitting there and seeing what your teacher was doing.
That's true. You would have to at least be going to class. That's true. You weren't even doing math at all. We do have kids. I always did my work because, well, one, I had someone checking in with me every single day.
Right.
So I would get nervous if my homework wasn't done. That would make me so nervous. If I ever forgot anything, my homework was always ready to go. I had a math teacher in high school that would assign probably 30 problems a night,
Mm-hmm.
which I get it. Math is one of those things where I think you do need homework for because you just
Yeah.
have to practice it. Repetition is going to give you math. But
Right.
she would just give you credit for doing it. She would put it in as a grade every single day just for doing it. And if it wasn't done, you'd get a 0.
Yeah.
I hated her too. I liked most of my teachers, but she was awful. She would get in front of the class and she would say, "Yeah, I've only got a 60% pass rate."
What?
And we're like, "Okay, that is not to brag about. Maybe teach better."
Why would you say that?
Your goal is not for students to fail. That's not your goal.
Right.
But she was my algebra 2 teacher. And she was just really the worst.
I'm sorry.
To this day, this is why I don't like Wisconsin, because she loved that team. Oh my God, I can't stand Wisconsin. Mm-mm. Yeah.
Talking about going home with homework, that was when because I went to public school for my senior year, my family had moved. I had started going to community college when I was 15 because we did dual enrollment stuff. And so I'd taken some Spanish classes, English classes, and math classes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to public school, I ended up, I knew what homework was like, but even community college is like homeschool because you sit there for an hour or two and then they send you with your work and you can do it whenever you want. And you just have to have it done and turned back in, right? So going to public school my senior year was the biggest, I don't know that culture shock is the right word, but the biggest just shock of wait a second, I have to just sit here for 8 hours or however long it is, 6 hours of classes. And then I have to go home and do more work. And I would be working for hours every night. Granted, I was in calculus in high school. And so that was a ton of work. And the science I took, I think, was physics. And I hate physics. And it was just a whole new learning curve to figure out how to learn in that setting.
Yeah. I was used to it by that time. because it was very normal to have homework. I don't really remember having it a lot in elementary school, but definitely middle high school, a lot
Right.
to practice every night. Um, One of my favorite things about public school, though, are all of the projects you get to do and then turn in. Like you said, you hated physics class, but I loved physics class. She was just an awesome teacher. But working in group projects is the most annoying yet bonding experience. Public school is group projects. Like it really teaches you how to work with other people
Right.
and the rough ones. But the physics class, loved that class. We had to make giant catapults
Oh.
that would launch pumpkins. And so I'm talking like 15 feet, 30 feet high catapults when they're like fully extended.
Oh my gosh.
And we had to figure out how to get the materials. We had to figure out how to build it and put all of this together. And so it was a
Wow.
group of like 5 or 6 girls. And I don't remember her giving us much info. I think we figured out, we might have figured out what the dimensions would have had to be in class for it to like maybe work.
Right.
So, but all of us could have different catapults, and so we would try different things to make them work. And you had to be able to fling your pumpkin a certain amount of yards or feet to pass.
Oh.
And so it was like we had to do it all outside of school, but it was this yearly project we would do every year. And so companies around town knew about it. So we would just go to different companies and ask for materials. And so we'd build these catapults for free.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I was going to ask
Yeah.
you where the heck you got your materials.
No, we would get them all. Everyone would go to like Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart, and you'd say, I have this list of materials. We're doing this school project. We'll put you on our shirt as a sponsor, or we'll put
Yeah.
you on our catapult as a sponsor. Like, what can you provide for us? And so I remember we got it all for free.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. And so, yeah, we would launch these catapults. I went to school at a rural school, and so we could just build there was always one kid that basically lived on a farm, and you could just build it there. Like, this is definitely not a project you could do in the city.
Right, right.
We just housed it at this girl's cattle farm. And we
Right.
would go out there like once a week, and
Yeah.
we would go launch these pumpkins into a field and see how far they would go. So fun. And then we did a lot of book projects in elementary school where you'd have to make like dioramas. And I remember one time I made a paper mache hot air balloon in the 5th grade for the Wizard of Oz book. And you'd come with little Polly Pockets, and you'd come in and you'd have to stand up there and talk about your good public speaking skills. But the 5th grade, the funniest project I ever did was a wax museum in 5th grade. And I think
Oh, stop.
wax
I think
museums
you've
are
told me about this
very,
before.
they're very common, wax museums are.
Yeah.
And I remember our teacher telling us about it, and she like gave us a day to go home and think about what we wanted to do. And my mom and I talked about it, and we came up with a person that I wanted to do. And so I go into class the next day, and everybody's raising their hands, and she's writing down who's going to be what. And I raise my hand and I go, "Can I be the Virgin Mary?" And she looks at me and she goes, "Yeah, that was a real person," which also would not fly today.
No.
She's like, "Yeah, that was a real person." Sure. She was also going to retire right after us, so I don't think she cared.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like related to me through marriage, kind of like my uncle married her niece. And so
Okay.
I could do whatever I wanted. Anyways, the wax museum comes. My mom had made me this outfit for the Virgin Mary, and I had made this
Stop it.
poster. The poster said the Virgin Mary. And the older I get, the funnier that is. That
Right.
a 5th grader had that. But and I don't remember my whole little speech, but every time someone came up and pressed your button, you'd have to do a little speech.
Yeah.
And I know mine started with, "Jesus, Jesus, where are you?" Because I was Mary when Jesus was 12 years old, like in the temple, and then I would go through this whole
or something.
yeah, and I was like, I would go through this whole spiel about who Mary was and like what was gonna happen to her. So I basically did the gospel presentation as a 5th grader in the gym of my elementary school.
I have a similar story. I was 1st grade because that's as long as I went to public school for, right?
Oh yes.
And in 1st grade, we had show and tell, right?
Oh yes.
And apparently I went to my mother and I was just distraught because I didn't know what to take with me.
Oh.
The tooth I had just lost, or my bridge diagram so that I could share the gospel with my class. Apparently, I must have gotten it from church or something, but you've seen that where like you get 2 blocks of wood and then there was like Velcro on them and it would have like God on one side and us on the other side.
No,
And
I've never seen an actual thing. But you put the cross in the
Really?
middle, and the cross
Okay.
is the bridge.
Yeah, and I had
I've
these
seen
blocks
drawings
of
of it.
wood, and then I had Velcro so I could put the like God and us, and then I think I must have had a person or something or whatever to demonstrate that like they just fell in the hole and oh my gosh, you can't get to God by yourself. And then I put the cross in between and you could like walk across and then you could be with God. And because Jesus died, right? And so I literally took that to class with me and shared it with my first grade class.
Wow, look at you.
I know.
I brought my little sister for show and tell once when she was a baby.
Stop it.
My mom agreed to bring her in.
That's
I was
so
like,
funny.
my mom just, it's so funny that she would just do that. I was like, Mom, can we bring in my little sister for show and tell? And she said, yeah. So she brought in this baby, and I talked about this baby as my show and tell. I was like, this is my little sister, Maddie.
That's cute though. That is really cute.
Yeah, it was cute. That was third grade, second or third grade.
Man,
We also would make a lot of books.
Make books.
Like second grade, I made a book about gorillas.
We
Third
made
grade, I made a book about wasps. I had to do dumb wasps because I was, again, sick on the day that they picked the insects and nobody was allowed to repeat insects. And so I had to get the stupid wasp.
I'm sorry.
I was afraid of bees. Nothing is good when you're sick.
As homeschoolers, we wrote some books. I remember writing something about blankies. It was called like the Blankies or the Sisters and their Blankies or something. I've still got it
The
somewhere.
Blanky sisters.
Maybe actually it was called the Blanky Sisters. I don't know. Anyways, wrote a book about blankies, and then we used to make movies.
Oh, I've seen some of these.
But these movies were for Father's Day. So really it was like the end of the school year came around and Father's Day was coming up and we were like, what are we going to do? We made
Let's make
a
this part of the
movie.
curriculum.
No, it was so just like I'm not even talking school anymore. I'm just talking random childhood memories. We did our own version of Chopped
Oh,
and
I
did a
have seen this
Chopped
one.
Father's Day. We made a Father's Day mystery.
I bet your
another
father
one, I
treasures
think, but-
these.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe not then, but I bet he watches them now.
My
That's
extended
adorable.
family has them too, and it's scary. Anyways, I feel like childhood was fun. You talked about your projects and stuff. The one thing I wanted to say about that is I think there's a huge difference growing up with the kids that you're in school with, right? And being able to know people and do projects and everything. When I went to school or to public school as a senior, I remember going in and one day there were multiple projects and multiple things we had to do with people, right? But I remember the teacher being like, all right, talk to somebody next to you or pair up or group of threes or whatever. And every time they would do that, I was the last person sitting there just because I didn't know anybody. And specifically, I remember sitting in my English class one time, almost crying this day, because I turned to look around me. We were supposed to talk about this article. I turn around and this girl turns, she looks at me, like straight looks at me, like I watch her, realizes I have no one, just kind of looks at me like, who are you? Or like, what? And then turns away and is like, oh, do you want to talk to me? To like her friend next to her or something like that. And no one ever invited me to talk. And I think that day the teacher like came and talked to me. And that's when you know you're the outcast.
Yeah, that's not great.
Now, I will say that makes me kind of sound like I was the weird homeschool that no one wanted to be friends with. But I will say whenever I went like somewhere public, like to summer camp or anything like that, people would always tell me that they had no clue I was homeschooled. And I always took that as the best compliment.
Yeah, because most people picture homeschoolers as being really weird. Because I did know some really weird homeschoolers.
There are some really weird homeschoolers. Homeschoolers go from like really weird homeschooler, like they've probably haven't had a not had a ton of social experiences when they were young, to the people you would have no idea were homeschooled.
Right. Yeah. Well, also, girls are just mean in high school
Oh, so mean. And everyone was
and
over
middle
making
school.
new friends, to be honest.
Yeah, you're in your senior year. People are just trying to get out.
Yeah.
So rude. I would have had talked to you.
Thanks.
I was the person in high school that was just kind of neutral with every
Yeah.
single person.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a vibe. I'd talk to anyone, and I had my close friends, but like I'd chat with anyone.
I was friends with some interesting people when I went to my senior year. There's one girl that I don't know if I would say we're still friends, but we haven't talked in years. I've texted her to see like if she wants to get together when she comes back to visit her family, but I think she's just always so busy.
Mm.
She played hockey in like New Hampshire for a while in college. Another girl, I don't know where she is now. She went to a college up in the UP.
Oh,
Someone
nice.
else, this guy that I was friends with in my senior year, we sat at the same table in English. We had switched English teachers. We had the best English teacher in the school, and then we switched to a teacher that nobody liked.
Mm.
And we ended up at the same table, and he would always goof off and like not do his work, but I guess we were like decent friends, okay? And I mean, I remember being decent friends, but I also remember him like just when high school boys, you just get the vibe that they know they're good at their sport, or they know they're kind of popular, and they know they're
Right.
good looking, and so they just have that air about them that's like, I'm cool and I know it.
Yeah.
This was this guy. And he
Hmm.
he was a pretty cute kid. He played lacrosse. He was like all whatever. And I must have written him a note. I don't remember writing him a note. Like, he was a really fun, nice guy. Sometimes I was over his like, I'm cool. You know what I mean? I'd be
Right.
like, dude, just do your work. Like, who do you think you are? Like, just start working. But I must have written him a note at graduation. I must have said something because I guess maybe I was invited to his graduation party and didn't go. Wrote him a note probably. I remember getting like a note back to him or back from him because I think he was invited to mine. Whatever. Well, years ago, that was years and years ago, right? About a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, he Facebook messages me and is like, hey, Abby, I was home for the holidays or something, and I found the letter you wrote me. And I was like, what letter did I write you? Like, I have
Like, what
genuinely
was I doing?
no memory of this whatsoever. Like, none.
Mm-hmm.
But it must have been, like, decently nice, right?
Right.
And then we just had a little chat, and it was kind of fun. He's out in Colorado now. He's super outdoorsy.
Cute. That's fun.
Yeah, I know. It was actually really cool. But I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I haven't thought of you in years. And all of a sudden, you're messaging me.
That's cute that he kept it.
I know.
Like, I wish you could see what you had written him since you have
Me
no
too.
recollection of it.
And it wasn't like we were really, really good friends or anything. We just sat at the same English table, and I harassed him into getting his work done every day.
Mm. My senior year at school, I only had one class at my high school. And it was my 6th hour class. And so I think I would go to community college the other days, but I'm pretty sure I only had community college 2 or 3 times a week, and it would be 1 or 2 classes.
You had it
So
made.
I would not go to school until the afternoon. I could basically do what I wanted. And then I would go in for my journalism class, which was we made the yearbook. So I would just go take pictures. We would go sell ads. I'd get to do yearbook stuff.
You
but
were
I
just
was
there for a
also-
good time.
I was there for a good time my senior year. It was so fun. And then I'd go to track practice or cross country practice after. But I was also in charge of the senior slideshow, and I took that very seriously because I wanted the best one ever. And the song That's What I Like by Bruno Mars was really popular that year.
Mm.
And so I got every single person in my grade dancing for a little bit, and
Stop
everybody
it.
would do it because everybody liked me. Like, not like, oh, yeah, everybody liked me. It was like I was so neutral with everybody that, like, nobody had
Right.
beef with me. That's probably a better way to put it. I had no beef with people. And so I'd be like, hey, will you dance for this video? And people would dance for me. So I got every single person in my high school to dance for this video, and then I montaged it to That's
is
What I Like by Bruno
hilarious.
Mars. And that hit at graduation. Parents are like, I want to buy it. I want to buy it. And I also,
Did you get some of the proceeds from that?
no, I didn't get any. I also got this drive where it had clips of a bunch of the kids from like first grade doing a project. And I put
Stop.
that in the slide. It was like a video project. And I went to our creepy middle school teacher, media tech teacher, that like we would edit photos and stuff, green screen kind of class. I did. I was such a good person to get everybody in the slideshow that I went to him, and he still had all the photos saved from when we were in the 6th and 7th grade.
Stop.
And he gave them to me on a flash drive. But
That's
it was
too
like
good.
in the 8th grade, one of our projects was making a commercial for an invention we had, and they were hilarious videos, and I got those and put them in the slideshow too. But I don't have a copy of the slideshow, and it's my biggest regret that I didn't get it.
That's the worst.
I bet you if I reached out to the
Someone would
journalism
have it.
teacher, she's got to have it on file somewhere.
Oh yeah.
But so good.
I'm trying to think of a question or some way to wrap up this conversation about school.
Yeah, I don't know. You did both types of school
I know.
at different times. Maybe if you could pick for your kids,
Oh,
you have kids someday,
I hate this question.
would you send them to public school or do homeschool?
I really hate this question.
Oh,
Because I have no idea. I really don't. I think it's hard because I just don't know. I would like to be on the same timetable as my kids, and part of me would like to keep working, so I don't know that I'd want to stay home. I think part of me struggles with it because in high school and middle school, I really had a not great relationship with my mom. So I would like to still have a good relationship with my kids where we enjoy each other, right? And I'm not like solely in charge of them 24/7 and then they slowly start to hate me. So I think maybe if I was going to do any sort of homeschool, I think I would do it in elementary years and then send them to school either at the end of elementary or middle school when everybody's entering the middle school together, right? I think if I was going to do any homeschool, that's the way I would do it. Otherwise, I would just send them totally to public school.
Yeah. I feel like at this point in my life, I would have to send my kids to public school because I need to work.
Yeah, I know.
But I think the same. If I were to homeschool them, I think that would be great for elementary school.
Right.
But 6th grade's a great time to put them in public school. I wouldn't want to do it during that time. I think socialization is good, and that's just a good way for them to socialize with other kids and get some experiences.
Unfortunately, socialization these days is a little bit scary in middle schools and high schools, but I feel like it's good to put them in some of those situations,
it's
unfortunately.
also good to, if they're in that situation and then it's not like they go off to college or get a job and then they're all of a sudden like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
So, and it's not like you can't do that if your kid is homeschooled, but I think you just have to try a lot harder to get them around kids their age. At least with sports. I would have my kid do a sport or something.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun.
Yes, it has been.
I feel like we were just talking random experiences, so hopefully it all flowed well.
Hopefully you enjoyed and laughed a little bit.
Yeah. Just fun school stories, growing up stories.
Yeah. All right.
That's it.
Sign us off. Are we good?
Yeah.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Like, review, rate, subscribe.